Right now, somewhere in the back of your mind, a silent scoreboard is running, and it never stops even when you are not looking at it. Your brain is quietly measuring you against everyone around you: the neighbor with the new driveway, the coworker with the vacation photos, the old classmate who seems to have it all figured out. This scoreboard feels harmless, but it is not harmless at all. It is one of the most expensive habits a person can carry, because every time you compare your life to someone else, you make a tiny decision right after you spend a little more than you planned, you save a little less than you should, you take a risk you were not ready for, or you play it too safe out of fear. This video is about that hidden cost, the one nobody teaches in personal finance classes. We are going to walk through exactly how comparison quietly drains your bank account, your confidence, and your long-term wealth. And more importantly, we are going to show you how to shut that scoreboard off for good. To understand why comparison costs so much money, we have to look at where it comes from. And it did not start with social media or advertising. It started thousands of years ago, when survival depended on your standing inside a small tribe. If you fell behind the group in status, you risked being left out, and being left out once meant real danger. So the brain built a fast automatic system for measuring rank constantly, scanning who has more, who has less, who is winning, and who is falling behind. That same ancient wiring still fires today, except now the tribe is not 30 people around a fire. It is millions of strangers online, and coworkers and neighbors and family at every gathering. Your brain still treats falling behind as a threat to your survival, even though a bigger house or a newer phone has nothing to do with whether you live or die today. This is why comparison feels so urgent and so emotional. It is not really about money at first. It is about an old fear of being left outside the group. Now take that ancient wiring and hand it a phone that never sleeps. Social media did not invent comparison, but it supercharged it. Every feed is a curated highlight reel showing the best angle, the best moment, the best possible version of someone else's life. Nobody posts the loan payment behind the new car or the credit card balance behind the vacation photos. You are comparing your full and complicated reality against a filtered snapshot of someone else, and the math will never work in your favor. The algorithm also rewards content that triggers strong emotion, and envy is one of the strongest emotions there is. So the platform quietly learns to show you more of exactly what makes you feel. Behind the result is a slow, steady pressure to spend in order to keep up with a picture of wealth that was never fully real to begin with. You end up chasing an illusion and paying real money to chase it, while the people you are comparing yourself to are often chasing someone else entirely. Here is where the psychology turns into actual numbers. Leaving your account. Comparison is one of the biggest hidden drivers of lifestyle inflation. Inflation is what happens when your spending rises every time your income rises. So no matter how much more you earn, you never actually get ahead. A friend gets a promotion and buys a bigger car, so you quietly start looking at bigger cars too. A cousin renovates their kitchen, and suddenly your kitchen feels outdated, even though nothing about it actually changed. None of these purchases come from a real need. They come from a feeling of falling behind someone else's pace. This is how people making very good income still live paycheck to paycheck. Their spending is not driven by their own goals. It is driven by a moving target set by everyone around them, and because that target keeps moving, the finish line for feeling successful keeps moving too, which means no amount of income will ever feel like enough. Let me paint a very ordinary picture. A man buys a modest, reliable car and feels perfectly content with it for 2 years. Then a neighbor pulls into the driveway next door with a brand new model. That same evening, the old car suddenly feels smaller and older and less impressive, even though it still runs exactly the same as it did that morning. Nothing about the car changed, only the comparison changed. Within a few weeks, he is sitting across from a salesperson signing papers for a vehicle he cannot fully afford, not because he needed it, but because his sense of enough was hijacked by someone else's purchase. This single decision can cost tens of thousands of dollars over several years in payments, interest, and insurance money that could have gone toward investments or an emergency fund or true financial Freedom the car did not create the debt, the comparison did, and this exact pattern repeats. Every single day with houses, phones, clothing, and vacations all across the world. Comparison does not only shrink your savings, it can also wreck your investing. Decisions when you hear that a coworker doubled their money in some new trend or a stranger online is bragging about fast returns, something shifts inside you. It stops feeling like a financial decision and starts feeling like a race. You suddenly feel behind even though your own plan may be working perfectly. While this fear of missing out pushes people to jump into investments they do not understand at exactly the wrong moment, usually near the peak, driven by emotion instead of research. The opposite happens too when everyone around you is panicking and selling. You feel pressure to sell as well, even if your original plan was built for the long-term. Real wealth is built through patience and consistency, but comparison constantly pulls people away from their own strategy and into someone else's timeline. Chasing other people's wins is one of the fastest ways to create your own financial losses. The comparison trap follows you straight into your career. Too many people quietly measure their salary against a friend, a former classmate, or someone in a similar role online, and instead of using that information calmly, they let it either deflate them or panic them into rash decisions. Some people undervalue themselves for years, too afraid to ask for a raise because they compare their entire resume against someone else's polished profile and feel they do not measure up. Others jump from job to job chasing a title or a salary number just because someone they know reached it first, not because it actually fits their own skills or goals. Both patterns come from the same root, looking outward for the answer instead of inward. Real career growth comes from clarity about your own value, your own goals, and your own timeline. When you finally negotiate or make a career move from that internal place instead of a place of comparison, you tend to make far stronger financial decisions. Beyond the direct dollars, there is a quieter cost, and it is emotional. Constant comparison keeps your nervous system in a low-grade state of stress. Your body cannot always tell the difference between a real threat and the feeling of falling behind financially, so it releases the same stress chemicals either way. Over time, that chronic stress shows up as anxiety, irritability, and a constant background hum of not enough. And here is the financial twist: stressed, anxious minds make worse decisions with money. People under chronic financial stress are more likely to make impulsive purchases to self-soothe a treat, here a splurge there just to feel a small moment of relief. This creates a painful cycle. Comparison creates stress. Stress creates impulsive spending. Impulsive spending creates more financial pressure, and more financial pressure creates even more comparison and more stress. Breaking this cycle is not just good for your bank account, it is good for your entire mental and physical well-being. Here is something almost nobody says out loud: most of what you are comparing yourself to is not even real wealth. The person with the luxury car may be 3 months behind on payments. The family with the dream vacation may have put the entire trip on a credit card. The coworker with designer everything may have almost nothing saved for retirement. Studies on consumer debt consistently show that visible spending and actual net worth are often only loosely connected. People who look the wealthiest are frequently not the ones who actually have money quietly building in the background. True wealth tends to be invisible. It looks like an unremarkable car, a modest house, and a growing investment account that nobody ever sees or claps for. When you compare yourself to someone else, you are very often comparing your real financial life to their performance, not their reality, and performances are expensive to maintain, which means the very people you feel behind may actually be far behind you. So if outward comparison is this costly, what should replace it? The answer is a shift from an external scoreboard to an internal one. Instead of asking, am I doing better than them? Ask, am I doing better than I was last year? This single change in the question transforms the entire emotional experience of money. When you compare yourself only to your past self, progress becomes visible and motivating instead of impossible and exhausting. Maybe your savings rate grew by 5%. Maybe you paid off one more debt. Maybe you finally started Investment account those wins matter deeply even if someone else appears to be further ahead. Everyone is running their own race with their own starting point, their own income, their own family situation, and their own timeline. There is no universal finish line for money. There is only your own progress compared against your own starting point, and that comparison is the only one that actually helps you build real lasting wealth. Knowing this is helpful, but turning it into daily practice is what actually changes your bank account. Start by limiting how much time you spend passively scrolling through other people's curated lives, especially right before making any spending decision. Next, build a simple habit of tracking your own numbers every month, your savings, your net worth, your progress toward specific goals. When your own data is right in front of you, it becomes much harder for someone else's car or vacation to shake your confidence. At a short daily practice of naming 2 or 3 things you are genuinely grateful for in your own financial life. This rewires attention away from lack and toward what is already working. Finally, whenever you feel the pull to buy something because of what someone else has, pause and ask a simple, honest question: would I still want this if no one else would ever see it? That single question filters out most comparison-driven purchases before they ever leave your wallet. Comparing yourself to others will always be tempting because the wiring is ancient and the world is louder than it has ever been. But every single time you choose your own numbers over someone else's appearance, you keep more of your money working for you instead of leaking out to impress people who are often struggling just as much as you are. Wealth that lasts is quiet. It is built one calm decision at a time, far away from any scoreboard measuring you against the crowd. The people who build real lasting freedom with money are rarely the loudest or the flashiest. They are the ones who stopped asking how they measure up and started asking what they truly want for their own life. So today, choose one small step, turn off the comparison, and turn toward your own progress instead. If this video helped you see money a little differently, subscribe for more real conversations about the psychology of wealth, and share this with someone still stuck on that old scoreboard.